Good afternoon. Today I want to provide some comments and thoughts on the report issued Friday by Ohio State University regarding the situation with the late Dr. Richard Strauss. First, let me express to the victims my deepest sympathy, to the victims and to their families. The Strauss report detailed acts of sexual abuse against at least 177 former students between 1978 and 1998. However, we know from that we've seen in cases like this that sexual abuse is almost always underreported. And undoubtedly, there are many other victims out there who have not come forward. And our thoughts are with them as well. We should all be disgusted. Everyone should be disgusted and should be angered by what has happened. Only by the horrific and vile acts perpetrated by Richard Strauss, but also they should be angered. The complaints and reports about this sexual abuse were not reported to higher authorities by the athletic department or Ohio State University's Student Health Center until 1996, more than 15 years after the first reports were in fact received. Additionally, these credible allegations were never reported by university personnel to law enforcement or other higher authorities in a timely manner. Now, while Richard Strauss is dead and obviously cannot face justice for his crimes, we can use this tragedy as an opportunity to review Ohio's current laws and to take steps to change the culture and how we respond to allegations of sexual abuse. Today I'm announcing the following actions. First, parts of the Strauss report relating to the State Medical Board of Ohio have been redacted. These redactions were made because the medical board has stated it legally cannot release that information. This comes about under Revised Code Section 473122F5, which states as follows: a report required to be submitted under this chapter, a complaint or information received by the board pursuant to an investigation is confidential. The law also states, and I quote, the board may share any information it receives pursuant to an investigation with law enforcement agencies, other licensing boards, and other governmental agencies that are prosecuting, adjudicating, or investigating alleged violations of statutes or administrative rules. The question that we are faced with today is this: did the State Medical Board of Ohio take appropriate action regarding Richard Strauss? What did they know? When did they know that? What did they do about it? In a plane crash, investigators look for the black box to help determine the cause of that accident. In this case, in regard to the State Medical Board, the black box or information to the State Medical Board is completely blacked out. What they knew, we don't know. Members of the public do not know. I find that to be unacceptable. And let me make very clear, I am not challenging the State Medical Board's interpretation of the law, nor what their legal counsel has told them. Therefore, in order for the public to be informed, an appropriate review to take place, I am today, in a moment, signing an executive order to establish a working group, Department of Public Safety, to review the complete Strauss report, including redacted information, as it relates to the State Medical Board of Ohio. This group will review the medical board's actions or inaction, ensure the medical board's policies and procedures are adequate to address complaints of sexual abuse raised against doctors. Neither state officials, the legislature, nor the public can have a meaningful discussion or learn lessons if this information is not been reviewed. The statute should not be used so that no one will ever know if the medical board did the right thing. And again, let me make this clear. I'm not saying that the law has been misinterpreted. I think the law seems to be fairly clear. This information cannot be released. Nor am I prejudging what the medical board did or did not do. I just don't know. The issue is simply, what do we know? And that the public has a right to know exactly what went on with the state medical board. Did the state medical board have information they should have acted on? We don't know. This group that I'm putting together today and the executive board that I will sign, they will be charged with finding out, taking a look at that, and reporting back to me, to the General Assembly, and to the public at the same time. The working group will be chaired by Ohio Department of Public Safety Director Tom Stickrath. It will include members from the state high. The group will also include a prosecuting attorney, a sheriff, a chief of police, a coroner, and a victim advocate. In addition, I am ordering that this group review the statutes regarding the medical board's confidentiality provisions. Ideally, in situations such as this, where credible claims of great public interest have come to light, the public has a strong interest in being able to review historical governmental action or inaction. However, these interests must be balanced against both the privacy of patient information as well as fostering an environment where patients and whistleblowers feel comfortable filing complaints and providing information to regulators. I'm asking this group to use this opportunity to review the relevant statutes and to make recommendations to the General Assembly to ensure that Ohio law strikes the right balance between transparency and confidentiality as it relates to medical board investigations and the licensure of doctors. Next, I want to work with the General Assembly regarding the statute of limitations for sexual abuse. Prosecutors tell me that it's unlikely that Richard Strauss, even if alive today, could be criminally prosecuted at this time in 2019 for his actions that occurred between 1979 and 1998. That's because currently the statute of limitations for rape is either 20 or 25 years, depending on the circumstances. The statutes of limitations for a troubling number of felony sex crimes are only 6 years. For misdemeanor sex offenses, including many of the actions described in the Strauss report, such as groping and fondling, the statute of limitations are only 2 years. We know that in sexual abuse cases, victims often delay disclosure of the abuse inflicted upon them. The time has come, I believe, for the state of Ohio to get rid of the statute of limitations for rape in the state. I'm also calling on the Ohio General Assembly to hold hearings and look at changing the statute of limitations for other sex crimes. Number 3, I'm today asking the General Assembly to take a hard look at the civil statute of limitations in sexual abuse cases. I think it is wrong that under current law, the statute of limitations against organizations where sexual abuse is alleged to have occurred is often only 1 or 2 years for victims over the age of 18. I'm calling on the legislature to look at legislative changes and hold hearings on this subject as well. Fourth, I'm calling on the legislature to strengthen Ohio's sexual assault statutes for persons in certain positions of power or authority. Ohio's laws in these cases are simply too weak. Lastly, we need to use this opportunity to review our college and university policies regarding sexual assault. In 2015, when I was Attorney General, I conducted a review of the policies used by Ohio State colleges and universities to investigate alleged sexual assaults on campus. We did this through a working group that I put together. One of the things that this review revealed was that campuses needed more training and assistance in furthering their obligations to treat campus sexual assaults as a criminal matter, in addition to being an administrative, disciplinary, or so-called Title IX matter. In other words, they needed to look at these as criminal, not just as a Title IX problem. At that time, my office began offering a number of initiatives, trainings, and grants to further these goals of improving victim services and training university staff on best practices for investigating sexual assaults. Almost all the cases that our working group reviewed involve student-on-student sexual violence. The Strauss report makes clear that we can and should do more regarding all campus sexual violence, including sexual abuse by faculty and staff. I am directing the Ohio Department of Higher Education under Chancellor Gardner and Vice Chancellor Duffy to conduct a review of all state college and university policies regarding sexual assault. Ohio is one of the few states with a state-funded comprehensive program to address campus sexual assault, and that is a good thing. However, we need to build on this foundation so that we always treat sexual assault as the traumatic event that it is. We always treat sexual assault as a traumatic event, and that we help with that victim's healing and reduce the negative long-term physical and mental health consequences. I know from my experience as a prosecuting attorney and my work further in the Attorney General's office that the victims suffer greatly, and that it is frankly difficult for people who have not suffered that to fully understand it. I'm asking the Department of Higher Education to review the implementation of evidence-based training and best practices as directed by Changing Campus Culture Initiative, which is Ohio's program to address sexual violence on campus. That is a program that is ongoing. So I'm asking the Department of Higher Education to review the implementation of evidence-based training and best practices as prescribed in the Changing Campus Culture Initiative. This should include a renewed focus on faculty-staff interaction with students. I'm also asking that the department review implementation of our 2015 Attorney General's Office recommendations regarding campus victim services and campus relationships with law enforcement and victim service advocates. And further, I'm asking every state, college, and university present to make sure that the culture at their campus reflects the goal of ending sexual assault on campus. And so if that culture on campus is a culture that every employee knows that they have an obligation to report incidents such as this. Before taking questions, I will actually sign the executive order. Happy to take any questions.
What's the timetable for your working group to report back to you, and will the working group have possession of the unredacted report, and will that unlock it?
No. My understanding, consulting with lawyers, is that because of the nature of this investigation, the working group can look at that. I would love for them to be able to make that public. If there's any way that that's possible, we certainly will do that. But it's my understanding, as the law is being explained to me, that the current law would not allow that. The purpose of the working group, though, is to report back to the public. And the working group can certainly, even if they cannot make public what's been redacted, they certainly can describe it, and they certainly can tell what the medical board knew in general terms in regard to this individual, and what, if anything, that they did. That information, I believe, can come out, And what's important for a public policy debate or discussion to occur is that that information be made public. When I first found out that this report was coming out and found out that a lot of this would be redacted, it concerned me because I think that the public has the right to hold all of us accountable, and has the right in this particular case to hold the medical board accountable. So we hope to achieve that with this working group. That's the idea anyway. I'm doing the best I can with the law I've got.
If there were findings that perhaps the medical board,
Yes.
you hold accountable 23 years later?
The purpose of doing this is that light is, as they say, is a disinfectant. Light on an issue is important. Whether it occurred 2 days ago or 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the public has a right to know if something didn't happen that should have happened, or if something was handled incorrectly. The reason we do these after-action reviews is to teach us what went wrong, if something did went wrong. I'm not prejudging this, but to teach us what went wrong so that we can change that for the future. So I'm asking this group not only to determine if something happened wrong, if the medical board didn't do what they should have done, and again, I'm not prejudging that, but if they conclude that, then I expect them to come back with specific recommendations to correct that in the future, or to make an assessment of whether what happened many, many years ago could happen again today. So that's the charge of the working group.
The legislature failed to act on changing statute limitations for sex crimes. How are you going to?
Well, I asked how furious would the public be today if this man was still alive and could not be prosecuted. I think people would be furious. So the nature of sexual assaults and the impact that they have on victims is different than other crimes. We just know from all the evidence and all the studies that many times victims never come forward. Many times victims can't come forward. So the law should be different in regard to the statute of limitations for sexual assaults than it is for other crimes. And so, yes, I understand that there has been some opposition in the General Assembly about this, but I would just ask the members of the General Assembly, what would you tell your constituents today? Or what will you tell your constituents tomorrow if we come upon another tragedy like this, where we have a monster who has been doing things like this? And he's alive, but we look around and say, no, that was 27 years ago or 30 years ago, and we can't prosecute him. I don't think there's a good answer that you could give to the victims. I don't think there's a good answer you could give to the public. So, yes, I understand that we've been through this before with the General Assembly, but I would ask the General Assembly, in light of this tragedy, to look at this issue again. Take a fresh look at it.
What were the university officials at the time compelled to share with law enforcement, and is there any accountability?
Yeah, I'm going to get Sarah. You want to come up, or Matt? Either one of you, or both? You need to speak right in there.
Okay.
Give them your name, Sarah.
Sarah Ackman, Deputy Counsel for the Governor's Office. So the question was,
What were the university officials who knew compelled to share with law enforcement at that time, if you know, and are there any ramifications for them now?
they were obligated to report any felony crimes, but the question is whether the crime would be a felony or a misdemeanor, depending upon the circumstances. Something that the governor wants to look at as well in terms of potential changes to the law to be sure that, if these things don't go unreported.
Let me just, Sarah, stay up here. But when you have a relationship of one person who has power over another person, it seems to me that the obligation is it changes in that, should change in that respect. Who else?
Sir, Brian Harris, Dr. Strauss. Thank you for your leadership today. I just have a few questions. Over the weekend, one of the victims and I read the report and became angrier because we knew the acts were egregious. We also knew that we knew the reporting was there, but we didn't know it's even worse. The cover-up, the lack of reporting, especially the police officer. If I would have done those things to a fellow student when I was at Ohio State, I would have been reported to the police yesterday because he was in a position he was held under arrest. I would hope, I like what you said today, but I would hope, I want to see your thoughts on supporting and help asking legislative support House Bill 249, which will allow us to have our justice and allow us time to heal. And also the King Prosecutor Desk would be support sign off on House Bill 249, which opens statute of limitations just for this case specifically, similar to what they did with Mary Nassar in Michigan. Mary Nassar is trying to come back 23 years, and their survivors are ready for justice. We want justice. I personally, my weekend was really bad. My wife and I struggled with the weekend. I want to heal, and I want to move forward. And you're the key, along with the legislature, to make sure we do that. So I appreciate the leadership. Please take us to the end.
Yeah.
Help us do this.
Well, first of all, I'm very, very sorry for what you've been through and what other victims have been through. I can't imagine what you've been through, and I can't imagine the impact that that's had on you. I think you can tell from my comments about this where I think the statute of limitations should be, and the fact that we should look at it not only from the criminal point of view, but statute of limitations from civilly as well. We do have pending lawsuits, and I've been advised by lawyers that I should not really talk specifically about that matter. As far as the specific bill, I've not really looked at the bill, and I will take a look at it. But again, I'm sorry for what you've gone through, and what happened at Ohio State obviously is just a great, great tragedy. Thank you.
Governor, as you said, there's 177 victims who've come forward that we know of, and there's probably many more. There were some 300 victims in the Nassar case, and Michigan State settled for $500 million in that case, and is facing even more lawsuits. Ohio State probably has some enormous exposure on this. Is there anything the state would do to help fund payments to victims at some point?
I don't think we're at that point yet. I think that from talking to the president at Ohio State, he certainly wants to help the victims, but again, that's not something that as governor I should be really commenting on today, at least. What I'm trying to do is to take the lessons that we have learned and change the laws. I'm also trying today to try to find out more of the facts and make the facts available to the public. I think it's important for the public to know everything.
Governor, do you believe some of these allegations made by some former student athletes that Congressman Jim Jordan knew about some of these?
Look, all I know is what I've read in what's been reported. I have no information about that. No, I don't have any. I mean, the report did not say that and did not mention that.
Governor, you were talking about increasing statute of limitations, and you said that you were telling some lawmakers to think about it, Dr. Strauss, if we're still to be alive, how angry a lot of people would be. Do you have any concerns that because he's not alive, that there's not enough of a motivation for some lawmakers to really get started and look at extending statute of limitations like you want?
No, look, I think the legislature will take a hard look at this again. This has been up before the legislature before. I'd recommended before that we extend it further. Some action was taken, but look, it's time to get rid of the statute of limitations in regard to rape. And frankly, for the misdemeanors and other things, those times are just much, much too short. They just need to be changed. I don't have a magical number with them or what should be the correct number, But sexual assaults in this type of a case is just so fundamentally different than the other cases that we deal with in the criminal justice system.
Could you talk a little bit more about the failures of the university officials at the time who were aware of this, and you mentioned culture. Do you attribute what happened to the culture that existed at the time, and are you satisfied with the culture that apparently exists at the university today?
Well, one of the things that I've asked is the chancellor and vice chancellor is to, drill down on the culture. I've specifically today called upon all university presidents to look at the culture in their institution. The culture of that institution needs to be that everybody gets it. Everybody gets what they're supposed to do. You can't have a situation where in one department they don't get it, they don't report it up. The culture has to be the right culture in every single department, whether that's the athletic department or whether it's the English department, doesn't matter what it is. Everybody's got to get it. The way you do that is you do that in a number of ways, but certainly one of the things that you do is by training and by having every employee go through the training and make sure that culture is expressed many, many times by people of authority, by the university president and others throughout the campus, so that it becomes ingrained. Culture trumps usually everything else. And so while I don't know anything more about what happened in regard to the Ohio State University and this monster and why things didn't get reported, all I know is what is in the report. But we could guess that we had a culture problem, and that the culture was not strong enough to overcome the people's reluctance to get involved. You got to change the culture. You got to make the culture so the culture is, hey, I got to step forward. I got to report. I have an obligation to do this, and if I don't do that, I'm going to get in trouble. That's the right culture.
Right. So the other piece of that is accountability.
Well, yeah, you got to hold people accountable. Absolutely right.
So is there any way to hold anybody accountable?
Well, again, I don't know the facts. I don't, in the sense of I don't know who's still at the university, who might have been in that department or one of the two departments. That I don't know. That I don't know. Those are facts I just don't know.
What's your assessment of how the university has responded over the last 14 or 15 months when they hired this law firm, spent $6.2 million on the report? Should they have just kicked it right to law enforcement and not gone through the...
Well, I'm not going to judge that one way or the other. I mean, I think there had to be a very, very thorough report. And the report had to look at things beyond what could have been criminal. I think the report had to look at every aspect of this. And so I have no reason to think that the report is not a thorough report. Again, I don't have any inside information, but it would appear to me that the report is a thorough report. I think how Ohio State came up with a thorough report, there's many ways they could have done this. But the most important thing was that they owed to the public a thorough report by an outside body who had experience in investigations.
So one of the reasons why we're asking for the household report in our some method to hold people accountable is because when the report was done, some people like Ted Grace, who actually runs the student health center at Southern Illinois University, why he's still allowed to look at the streets, but he refused to talk, and some of the other people refused to talk or answer questions. And so one of the ways that we want to do justice is also to force people who are still around to talk. And so that's what we're trying to do. The second is...
Well, excuse me, I understand that. I understand that. Again, I don't know all the facts, but people can refuse to talk. And, they'll take, if you haul them into court, they simply take the Fifth Amendment, is what they many times will do. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you all.